eyes. A lot of people would tell me that they like the way that I draw my eyes on my characters. It's sort of Disney-esque kind of thing. I wish. But yeah, I'm just going to show you a few techniques that I use. And it's not an exact science. Sometimes I have to do it like multiple times before I get the eyes right, but it's really important to get the eyes right. So yeah, so then you can make some cool, cute eyes for your characters. So let's do it. Let's see. So what I usually do is I try to isolate the nose and cheek area. And since I'm going to make him smiling, I'm just going to just make the smile bigger. Also, one other thing that I always do is I do the eyes on a separate layer. Whenever I have something I want to make sure I get right, I just do it on a separate layer. So his eyes is a separate layer than the body. Also, shout out to I Am Making Art. Love his Instagram page. So many beautiful amphibians and reptiles, and definitely go check that out. It's definitely worth it. I get a lot of inspiration from that page. Okay, so I try to isolate that. Try to isolate that nose area and the cheek, because all that stuff is going to tell me where the eye should be. So since I'm making his, I'm going to do it all on one layer just so I can like erase everything and make it clear. But once you have your shape, it's good to do the eyes on a different layer, but I'm just going to keep it simple. So the cheek is important. So you definitely want to have, so the mouth curve is here and the cheek is here. And the cheek is going to give you a lot of expression. Alright, so we can probably make this eye a little bigger. And I usually like to just work with arches or arcs. And I just think of this whole general area as like a circle. And just keep it very simple. So if I'm going to make his eye here, I just want to fit it right into this space. So I'm going to make, I don't want it to be right along this line, but I'm just going to make this line right above it. And then just a nice just nice and round. So I just have this line here, and then I have nice and round here, and I'm going to make this one thing I like to do, and this is just my little thing, you don't have to do that, but I always do that on my characters. So essentially all we have here is, once you define this line from the nose and the cheek area, you just want the eye to be above that. And also, since this ridge is coming up, I'm just going to put, you know, the eye obviously comes from this space, so I'm going to make it like a dome, as though it's coming up from back here, even though he doesn't really have that. I'm just going to give it that. You know, this kind of dome effect. So it's sort of like his eye is, so it's sort of like this part is coming off and then his eye is right here. There's a couple other things that I can probably do for this eye as well. So let's I'm going to duplicate this. And this is also, if you've seen my videos, this is how I actually go through trying out a lot of different eyes. As I'll just make a new, I'll just copy it, make a new layer, and then I'll just try again, because you might get something better. So for this one, I'm just going to use this bottom line. I'm just going to make a big, it's just a circle. It's just part of a circle that's finishing right here. And let's say I want him, let's say we want to make him have a little bit of trepidation. So when I think of like the different emotions, first it starts out with a circle, and then this is like immediately like worried or trepidation. You know what I mean? If I want to make a circle and sad, it's just a circle and just a little bit less of a S curve, and maybe like really big, a really big eye like that, you know. And also if he's upset, stick to the circle, and you just have the eyebrow that would come, or the bit of the eye that would come off like that. And it's really just a circle, and then you find your expression with the area of the eye above it. If it's just happy, then you can just draw the line here, you know, and then you can just, you know, that's kind of like a normal pose. Well, not pose, but you know what I mean. So, okay, we want to make him have a little bit of, so we'll do something like this, and we'll just extend. This is all like eyelid type area, so if you're going to do that, it has to connect. Everything has to connect, so just kind of think of it as a 3D thing, you know, like it all has to, it doesn't have to be that huge, but you know, it all has to connect. So if he has some trepidation, and so if we did that one, then we want to do this one kind of the same way. So what I'm going to do is, if this eye's here, we're going to kind of mirror it, but go the opposite way. And I'm going to turn his eye and just make another circle as though his eye's here. It's not based in reality, obviously, because his other eye would be, his other eye is facing the opposite way. But you know, that's the thing with drawing, is sometimes you just have to fudge it. And then I still make that other back part of his eye, because obviously it can't just, you know, it has to come from somewhere. The eye just can't be popping out of his head like it you know, it's spherical, so could do eyelids, but then he looks really creepy with those. Alright, so I don't really like the way this looks, so I'm gonna erase that. And essentially I'm just gonna match this. So since I have that, since I have this here, you could almost do it, you could almost do this. Essentially, you just want to kind of match so I've kind of just mirrored this eye. And then you want to put that sphere, you want to put that spherical eyeball in. Where do you want him looking? We'll make him... Another important thing about doing eyes is, remember, like if you do an eyeball here, you have to take, like, see this space from the eye to the top of his the top part of the sphere. You want to kind of match that, because when that's off, it'll make the eye look off. For example, so if you do this and it's like too low, actually that doesn't look too bad, but if you make it too high, then the eyes are off. So you kind of want to, like, you kind of just want to match this space around it. It's not always like a perfect match, but it's good to match the space. That might be a little too, I don't know if that makes sense. Anyway, let's move on. Let's move on. Okay, good. I do have... Alright, so we're going to go back to this eye. And we'll have him looking that way. Give him some eyebrows, just to give him some personality. I kind of like this one best. I think it's the most simple. Darken his mouth line. Make it thicker so you can see it away from the, you know, the rest of the lines. You want to be able to see the mouth line. But that's pretty much, I mean, that's pretty much how I do it. Let's see if I was going to make another character. Let's say like a turtle. Okay, so anyway, let me get to the eyes. Sorry about that. I get carried away. Okay, so if I'm going to make a turtle. So where the eyes lie, let's see. I usually make this bit above their nose. So wherever their nose is, I kind of make that ridge. I kind of make the ridge. And I do the same thing with, I define like where the nose is and the cheek. And then once I have that, then I kind of go and do my arm. Alright, so it stopped recording on me. So I'm going to have to do this again. Alright, so let's figure out where these eyes should be. So center line, nose. I always think of everything as like a 3D image. I kind of define the nose by kind of using an oval. And for the mouth, I do the mouth, and that dictates where the cheek is. It's all relevant, trust me. So I do the mouth. That dictates where the cheek is. So if the cheek is here, this bump is also the cheek. So I'm just going to erase what I had, and just turn that into the cheek, because that's why that bump is there. Alright, so, and the cheek is important because that tells us like where the eye should be. Okay, so I bring this bridge up from the nose. And it's basically just two kind of like rectangular squares or arcs. You can arc the top. But they come off of this bridge in the middle, which comes up, a high bridge for this turtle. And then one other trick you can do is kind of, as though that was a circle, as though this was an arc here, because this is where you want the eyes to be. So I'm going to take that line that we just did and just make a big circle, half circle, maybe a little more than half. With this big cheek right in front of it. So I'm gonna kind of be above this line that we drew in the middle. I still want to be like above that, as though it's right here. And then I'm going to make an arc, just like I did, but I'm going to follow this bigger one. Those are like the templates as to where the eye is going to be, where the eye is going to fit in the head. And if you want to push the expression, you can just make these taller. It's always good to kind of like push the expressions. And he already looks happy even without eyeballs. Can probably push him even further. Don't be afraid to kind of push the expressions and make him really and just like I did with the other one, you wanna make sure it has that, you know, that space coming off, because this area here, you know, it's part of like that, you know, it's part of that kind of shape. So you don't need the whole thing, you just need it to go back to his head. And this would have the same thing here. The same thing, see, it's like that kind of thing. And this is a little pointy. So you can make it a little rounder. Or you can make it, you can leave it that kind of almond shape. But that's, you know, personal preference. And you just kind of want them to be the same sort of that's not bad. You know, my thing it's like a Disney thing. They put that real thick like eyebrow side of the eye, but it looks good, so I do it too. Just little lines up here, just so they kind of helps push the expression. And now for the eyes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a layer underneath, and then we can play with the eyes. Put them real big and in the middle. You just think of circles and you just try to kind of keep, you know, you kind of want the same sort of space on the outside. Now I think it looks a little off because of the way that these eyes are. There's not... See, to me it looks like there's just too much on this side. Or, yeah, there's too much like eyeball. Looks a bit better, but they're kind of they're a little too big. They're a little too big. And also, let me erase this in here. about that one looking forward, and this one can be a little bit closer. This eye's too small. Kind of eyeballing it. No pun intended. Pun intended? So actually, let me just use a different brush to fill that. It's not bad. It's not too bad. So another little trick is I'm going to take the graffiti brush, which is just, oops, just a fat brush, but I'm going to lower the opacity, and then I'm going to make an arc here, and that plays as the shadow. That plays as the shadow over the eyelid. And then I would take the same brush, graffiti brush, but in eraser, graffiti brush, and I would bring the opacity down again. And I would just erase like a jelly bean in the eyeball. I know it looks weird, but... And then I'll raise that up, make it full size. This, I'm still in eraser. And then I would do something like this. And it just kind of gives it a cool effect. And we'll do it to this eye. So, paintbrush, lower the opacity, do that for the first step. Then I'll take the eraser. So graffiti brush, eraser, lower the opacity. Oh, you know what? I gotta erase on, yeah, I'll erase this layer. Okay, so same thing, eraser, and then you know, just make some sort of, it doesn't matter what these little, it doesn't always have to be like a perfect like circle. It can be like, you know, anything random. Alright, so I hope you found those useful. This is the end of the first part. I'm going to make a second part because this one's already like half an hour long, so I'm just going to split it up into 2 videos. So make sure you check out the second part of this video. I'm going to do a couple of more eyes, and yeah, we'll just go step by step and we'll work it out. So yeah, let's draw some more eyes.